Hello everybody, my name is Brandon. Welcome back to Cinefessions, where we talk all things media. It is day 2 of my 13 days of Halloween, and I am still locked into the Asylum, where I am watching and reviewing all Asylum horror films for the end of the month here in celebration of just the best holiday of the year. And so this time around, day 2, we are looking at another mockbuster, but this is one I haven't seen previously. From 2013, we have Hansel and Gretel. And you can see this is from the Brothers Grimm, so based on that fairy tale, of course, that we all know from childhood. So this is a really good example of an Asylum mockbuster, because unlike Paranormal Entity, which really followed like the same beats that Paranormal Activity did, which is the mockbuster, or the movie that it's being a mockbuster of, this one is a mockbuster of Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters, and this feels nothing at all like Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters. And so this is a really good example of a mockbuster in the traditional style that the Asylum likes to do. So what did I think of this one? Well, let's talk about it. If you guys are enjoying these 13 days of Halloween, please give this video a thumbs up down below. That really does help me out. But with that said, let's not waste any more time at all. Let's dive right into day 2 and talk about Hansel and Gretel from 2013. Hansel and Gretel is another one that I happen to own in the physical form. As I mentioned, throughout these 13 days, not every one of them is going to be digital. A lot of them I'm borrowing from Hoopla or Amazon Prime Instant Video, whatever the case is. But this is one that not only do I own in the physical form, but I do have the Blu-ray of this. And I will point out there are special features on the back here. There is a making of, there is a gag reel. There's a bunch of trailers so you can see what other Asylum films are out there. There's this actually, like, the Blu-ray opened up with this really cool, like, 15-year almost retrospective of the company. So it was 100 years, 15 years, 100 films, and at the end it's like, you're welcome. But it was a really cool introduction. But either way, there are special features on this disc if you're interested. But that said, this one we are following pretty closely to the story that we know of Hansel and Gretel. Oh, let me mention that this is also directed by Anthony C. Ferrante, I believe is how you would say that, who is probably best known because he's the director of Sharknado, which is arguably the Asylum's biggest film series ever. And so we have a pretty decent director on this, and I think he does what he can. And so we'll talk about it here. But yeah, this one, like I mentioned, is from 2013, and we are following that Grimm Fairy Tale story, but it's done in a horror film style, almost harkening back a little bit to like that torture era. Obviously we were past it by 2013 for the most part, but there are still touches of that here and there. Frankly, they save most of that for the end though, because there are some moments toward the beginning and middle where I thought to myself, I wonder why they're doing this off screen as opposed to showing the brutality. But I'm sure it was for budgetary concerns because they wanted to save it all for the climax at the end. But and I'm getting ahead of myself yet again. So we are following these two siblings. Their father is like dating this really young girl who's only like 3 years older than them, and they find out that the father's retiring, and he's going to go off and like live on a boat essentially, and just be happy together. The brother is I don't know, I guess they look like they're like in their mid-20s, but I guess they're supposed to be teenagers according to the synopsis here. And so he stays at home and plays video games all day, and he doesn't like Ruby, who is the girlfriend, because she's, like he says, he's only 3 years older than him, or she's only 3 years older than him, and so he doesn't like her at all. The mom died when they were younger, and so this is the father kind of getting back into the game, and it's not what he wants to hear, because they're going to end up selling the house and moving on to this boat. So he's pissed. He runs away into the woods, where he ends up falling like victim to this trap that they have set up. It looks like a bear trap. He gets trapped in there, and his sister, Gretel, of course, comes to try to find him. They end up at this house in the woods, which of course is going to be where our film picks up from. So what I was like blown away by right from the beginning is that Dee Wallace is in this, and not only does she play a part in this, she's like our main character in this. I don't think it's a spoiler to say that she is the main antagonist here, and the way that she plays this role is just fantastic. She is excellent at what she does, and she's having so much fun here. It looks like she's great with this role. I loved the way that her character brings about this supernatural elements to the story, but they're so subtle. As the movie goes on, they get a little bit more prevalent, but even toward the end, I feel like it's still pretty subtle the way she does it, and how Ferrant directs her, and I think it's done really well. So that part was really cool. With our two Hansel and Gretel, our main characters here, again, the only real problem I had with them is that they just look much older than teenagers. I would guess that they were probably in their mid to late 20s, and so that part didn't really work for me, but frankly, it doesn't really matter. Like, it's still, the story doesn't rely on them being teenagers, quite frankly. But that said, I think it was okay casting. What I'm finding, and what I have found in the past, is that the problem with these Asylum films are not usually the acting. The acting is generally pretty strong, and in this one, I think it's really good. Hansel and Gretel are great. They have good brother-sister chemistry. They're twins, and so there's just like a different relationship with twins than there are normal siblings. And I think that works really well here. There are some other teenage victims that are playing a role in this. They do a nice job. Obviously, they are kind of amped up given the situation, and I think they handle that kind of extreme emotion pretty well. I already mentioned Dee Wallace. She is amazing in this. There's a couple cops, the mom, or the father, and the girlfriend. Everyone in this does a really good job. So I had no issues with the acting at all. That said, where this one does fall apart a little bit is with the script and some of the choices that these characters make, whether they're big or small. There's some moments in here that I just thought to myself, this doesn't make any sense. Like, why is this character doing this in this moment? It doesn't make any sense for it. Just one small example. It's not a spoiler, really. Hansel and Gretel are like hiding at one point. They're under, like, I think they go under a bed is what it is. And these worms start dropping onto Gretel's face. And they're trying to stay quiet because they don't want to be caught. Well, instead of the brother, who's literally laying on top of her, trying to hide with her, instead of him using his free hand and brushing her face off, he just lets it go. And so, like, they have this moment of tension where, is she going to scream? Is she not? Are they going to get caught? When literally all he has to do is put his hand up and wipe the worms off, or put his hand up and prevent them from falling on her face, and everything's fine. But the script doesn't have that happen, or Ferrant doesn't allow them to do that. And so it just feels like fake tension that doesn't work for me at all. There are some other moments, like, they decide their plan is that they're going to kill everyone, right? Hansel and Gretel decide this. Well, they try to do this, and then they leave the knife sitting right on the floor. And so it's like, how, you don't have any other weapon. How are you going to kill everybody if you just left your knife sitting on the floor? Like, it doesn't make sense. At the ending, I'm not going to talk about that too much, but there are some moments at the end that don't make sense either. And it was frustrating, because this movie to me was like, it was right on the edge of being a good movie, and it just never quite got there. There were things holding it back. Something else I really did like about the movie was its use of gore. This is a brutal film. I actually just noticed this. On the back, it says that this is a cross between Hostel and House of a Thousand Corpses. I would not put it into that torture category, but there are elements of that, and toward the end, it almost reaches those points of that torture porn genre, but really, it doesn't quite get there. I think the gore effects on this are pretty well done. Yes, there is some CGI gore effects here, but it didn't detract from it at all. I think they do a good enough job with that CGI that it plays pretty well. There are moments where I cringed, like quite a few moments where I cringed, frankly. And so maybe I'm not giving it enough credit when it tries to be a mix of like Hostel and House of a Thousand Corpses, but it is not that, I feel like. And so don't go into it expecting that level of brutality, but do know that this is not for the faint of heart, I would say, because there are some pretty gross and gruesome moments here. The special effects work, I thought, was done surprisingly well, especially for a film from the Asylum. Sticking with like the issues with the script, there are some moments where we are introduced to a few new characters. They are locked in the basement, and of course the evil witch is eventually going to burn them alive, or well, maybe they're not alive, but they're going to burn them and eat them, right? That's the whole story of Hansel and Gretel. And I'll tell you, it is pretty darn gruesome the way they kind of, I don't know how to say it like without being disgusting, but just think about how you would roast a pig. They kind of do the same thing. They treat these human beings like pigs, and it is pretty brutal and pretty gross. And so the way they handle that, I thought, was just definitely cringeworthy. But there are these moments in the basement where it's like, you guys can escape so easily. There is literally a screen that already has holes in it on the door. All you have to do is punch through it. You can unlock it. Like, you're trying to use these knives, these hairpins to get out. You don't need to do that. And so, like, literally all they had to do was just make a better door, a more imposing door than they do, to make those scenes more believable. There are 4 of them in this like chamber in the cellar at one point, and there's only 2 guys that are trying to keep them down there, the twins. Well, they could overpower them. It looked like so easily, but they just never went that way with it. I don't know. There was just some frustrating moments where, for whatever reason, the actors were not allowed to make the choices that would make most sense in that situation. And that was just frustrating to me at points. That's why I keep saying, like, it was on the brink of being a good movie. It didn't make it. It didn't get up to that point. So I'll leave it there. Again, I want these to be a little bit shorter. So I'll say that Hansel and Gretel, I don't regret watching it at all. I think it was a well done film at points. The direction was pretty decent. The effects were good. Dee Wallace is phenomenal in this. I think she does such a great job with what she's given. Our Hansel and Gretel, I think, do a really good job. Hansel is just kind of like a jerk, but he made me laugh. Like, there's humor that is played out throughout this entire thing, specifically with his character, and I think it's done really well. Oh my gosh, Dee Wallace has this amazing joke toward the end where it's like that song, I shot the sheriff, but I didn't shoot the deputy, that song. I genuinely laughed out loud because she just played it perfectly. I don't know, it was dumb, but it was just so perfect. And so there is a level of humor in this, but at the same time, they're taking it seriously, and it is definitely a horror film. So while I wish it was better, it did not quite reach that level that I hoped it would. I still am glad I've now seen this film. So I am going to give Hansel and Gretel from 2013 2 out of 5 stars. All right, so I don't know if I gave that too low of a score. I probably did, because I feel like I liked it better than I thought I was going to, but it didn't quite get where I wanted it to get. And so 2 stars is going to be good enough for me. But that is it for day 2, guys. I hope you enjoyed this one, and definitely check back tomorrow. I am still locked in the asylum for a lot more days here, so definitely check back every day until Halloween, where I am doing my final 13th day, and that one will be a special one, so definitely stay tuned for that one. But if you guys have seen this movie, let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. I would love to hear any opinions. If you want to see this one now, if you want to skip it, just let me know any of your thoughts down in those comments below. As always, if you guys did enjoy this video, please give it a like down below. That really does help me out. And like I always say, I don't just talk movies, I talk all things media, be it books, movies, video games, collectibles. If it's media related, I'm interested in it. If you are too, you might consider subscribing. All right, guys, so that's going to do it for today. I just want to say thank you all so much for watching, and I want to encourage you to consume some media today. I'll catch you next time.